So I'm about to tear down 3 carburetors, and one of these, at least one of them, is a knockoff carburetor. So we're going to go ahead and take them apart because all 3 of these need to be modified if they can be, and then fitted with the DMR quick change float bowl. So let's just start from right to left and go through this. Now, if you look at this, KEIHIN has not put in a brass idle screw in years. They pulled away from that because on the early models they were having this part of the slide break off, and so they went to plastic. But then they also changed the casting and added this angled shoulder in underneath here. That's why a lot of people ask me if I'm concerned about this now, and I'm not, because they actually fixed the problem by putting that in. But first thing that you'll see is this screw. The other thing that you will see is, you see this little casting mark right here? See how it's missing? Okay. Now let's look at this. The slide has no number on it. That is probably one of the quickest, best giveaways that it's not legitimate. Also, you see the machining in here, and this looks like a factory machine job versus, now I already know this one here is legitimate. You see how it is not been machined, a little bit down by the throat, but not out here. Okay. This is a non-air striker. This also looks like factory machining, but do you notice that it has the air striker cut out right here? Here's another problem. Can you see down in there how they've got the brass part of the emulsionary tube sticking up? This right here? That should be flush with this surface down here. So let's go ahead and keep taking this one apart and see what else we can find. Alright, so let's take the bowl off the one that we assume is the copy and see if we can tell that, that this is a Chinese copy. So we'll get this off and we're just going to look at the bowl. Now I can already see something that's very important that's missing, but I can also see that the casting is completely different. But if you look at this bowl, this bowl, this bowl, and this bowl, you're going to notice that all of these have this 262, and then it'll be a 2-1, a 4-2. See all the numbers inside. This one does not have it, and we can obviously see the casting differences in that. So that's another clue that we're not looking at a legitimate carburetor. But here's where it gets really funky monkey. Let's start with this. You see how this has kind of a shine to it, kind of a sheen on both sides? And of course it's got some ugly casting right here. This is what a real KEIHIN looks like. It's going to have more of a sand casted finish, very light sand casted. This has more of a die cast finish. Now, something that's on this one that is going to prohibit it from being able to use our float bowl is the way that this whole assembly works right here, which is the main jet sets inside, and it still uses a regular main jet, but it sets inside of this unscrewable emulsionary, and this is the one that has this sticking above. So this carburetor is not going to be usable for our float bowl, so I'll have to contact the customer about that. let's keep going and see if we can identify some more problems. So we're going to go ahead and remove the floats. Pause. This one is a legitimate float. This is out of the Chinese carburetor, and you can obviously see the difference in this. Now I will I'm going to jump over here to the real carburetor for a second and demonstrate a problem that it has that normally is addressing something that I have talked about on the channel a bunch. But if we put this in, the pin back in it, I want you to see how high those floats set at a rest. You see where they come to rest? That should be, that parting line should be parallel with this surface. So what somebody's done is this thing has been leaking fuel and they've been bending the tab farther and farther down. But if we look at this whole assembly, we're going to see that this has taken on a Z pattern. See how this is lean forward? The problem that they're experiencing is the fact that this is no longer a perfect right angle with this assembly. And that's when you're going to have to start adjusting this farther and farther down, and then you're going to have a lot less fuel in your float bowl. So this is very important to check, making sure that this is a perfect right angle. Okay, now unlike a lot of these that I see that do not have the anti-tamper screw in it, meaning that if you look at this Torx bit, it has a little extrusion in it that needs to be fitted to a bit that has the hole in it, so that allows it to come off. This one does have it. Normally they don't. I'm going to go ahead and just keep pulling this apart because I'm documenting it for the customer and for you. Yeah, it's very obvious that this was not an original part here as manufactured by KEIHIN. And then obviously you can see where they've extended this up. Then we talked about the idle screw. This was changed to plastic years ago, so it's hard to find any of the original ones that still have them. You can tell by its shape, by how heavy duty that spring is. It's a killer spring. And let's take a look at the air screw. You can already see that it's not a KEIHIN original. So there's their air screw, and we're going to pull the one out of here, and this is going to be our example of a legitimate air screw. So very obviously this carburetor is not an original KEIHIN casted carburetor. So we're going to set all the parts off to this side, and we're going to open up the last carburetor. Oh, by the way, this one has, you can see the KEIHIN insignia and the number. This is the number 6 slide. Just for reference, I stay around number 6, number 7 slides. It's going to alter the way that your piloting circuit works, and to about right around the half throttle mark. So we'll go ahead and take this out of here. To the other screws came out pretty easy, and yeah, they use some pretty good Loctite on these. Go ahead and get this out. I have never broke one. I have stripped a couple of them out. If you do, it is not a fun project extracting them because of limited access. So just be careful. If you think you're going to break it, throw a little bit of heat at it. A little bit. If you throw too much, you'll end up destroying this fitted O-ring right here. But this is exactly what I would expect to see from an OE carburetor. Something that was, and when I use the term OE, I mean something that was original, the original manufacturer of the carburetor. This is going to be, this is all normal. So this carburetor is definitely a candidate for the work that I do. Now let's go to this one right here. First off, it has the plastic screw. Now, it looks like somebody has put in a aftermarket pilot screw, which I like those. I just started using them on the dyno, and I've read some comments where people are like, oh, if you run them in the real world, they will vibrate out. So we'll have to see if that's actually factual in our case, and if that's the case, then it'll just be a dyno part. So let's take the slide out, and you can see that it's also a number 6 slide. Okay. It has the little casting mark on it. Let's go ahead and pull the float bowl. This carburetor appears to have had some previous machine work to it, which after I get a chance to measure it, I may find that there is no modifications that I would do that would render any better results. We can see the numbers that are cast in there, and check the float level on this one. It's a little bit on the low side, but not nearly as bad. But you can see that the Z effect there going on. You'd be surprised at how many people's carburetors I've saved when they were going to buy a new carburetor because they couldn't get it to stop overflowing, and you straighten that out, and then it's good to go. So let's take this out, and once again, these are going to look almost identical with each other. Parting lines are in the same place. You can tell this one is newer than this one. This seems to be the oldest of the carburetors. And let's go ahead and take the main jet out and the pilot jet out. Pilot out of there. And get the whole assembly out. Yeah, that one's got some drag on it. And if we take a look at these two, we can see that they are very similar. I mean, they're from the same casting. So the answer to the question: 1 fake, 2 authentic. And I'm going to get these things all up on the CNC, do the machine work on them. Then I'm going to have to contact this customer and tell them that this is honestly, the rest of it I could probably work with, and I may be able to find excuse me, I may be able to find this assembly out of another carburetor and exchange it with it. But this, how it is not going to adapt up to our float bowl. So, all right, guys, I hope this answers some questions. Please leave any comments or questions that you have below. Subscribe, share, and comment. It really helps out the algorithm. And we'll be back with another helpful video soon.